Hi, BC family. Welcome to your midweek devotion. I want to start off today with a quote that I had said last week by Andrew Womack. He had said that imagination is the doorway to your potential. So, imagination, the actual definition of it, is the action or faculty of forming a new idea, an image, or a concept of an external object, but it's not present in the senses, right? It's not present to our five senses. Vision, on the other hand, is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. So, if you catch that, imagination and vision, while interchangeable sometimes, are still two very separate things. Imagination is where you begin. That's where you begin to dream. Kids daydream, kids imagine things all the time. People start off meetings with, imagine if money was no option. Imagine if you were 100% healthy. Why? They want you to dream it. They want you to think about something that isn't feasible in this present world, right? Imagination is the launching pad. First, you have to imagine, and then it becomes your vision. Now you're thinking about it and planning and foreseeing how you can make this a part of your future, right? That's when it becomes a vision. So this year in 2023, God gave me the word stretch. And it's an interesting word, stretch. And I've been thinking about it and meditating on it every day so far in January. And the verse that came to mind right away was Isaiah 54:2, where it says, enlarge the place of your tent. Let the curtains of your habitation be stretched out. Spare not. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. I really like the NLT version. It reads, enlarge your house, build an addition, spread out your home, and spare no expense. That is definitely a great definition of stretch. So my question to you this week is, what are you standing for this year? Is it a stretch to you? Does it feel like it's impossible, but God is standing there saying, no, with me, all things are possible. Dream bigger. Let me show you what your life could be. Because remember, imagination, it's the doorway to your potential, right? Imagination is the doorway of your potential. Just want to make sure I had that correct. So on shows like Fixer Upper or HGTV shows where you have designers, the designer sees the potential of the house, right? They're walking them through this house that is nowhere near what they want. It's hideous. But the designer's walking them through this house and they're trying to get them to imagine what this house could be. But all the people can see is the dirt and the grime and the destruction and just the yuck. Likewise, God has great plans for us, but we have a hard time looking past where we've come through, where we are, where we've been. Look at my health, look at my finances, look at my relationships, my job, and we struggle to imagine what that final product would be. But the more time that we spend with God, the more we get to see what our life could be, the more that we are able to imagine, because we realize that He's such a good God, and we begin to see past what is present to what life could be. So now we're able to imagine, right? Let's say you're on board, you're imagining it, and you're envisioning it. But here's the stretch part. See, imagining it and catching God's vision, that's just a part of the stretch. It's like the beginning. When a home project gets started and someone finally picks a house and says, okay, I'm going to trust you. This is the plan you said you have, that my house is going to be this. Let's do it. Inevitably, when they start that, something big happens, right? They start tearing down walls and suddenly you find things behind them that you didn't think were there. Pipes are there, messed up electrical, right? And all these problems start to come. So when we go to God and we say, okay, God, I'm ready. I'm ready to be strengthened and lengthened and stretched and enlarged, then things in our life begin to become uncovered, right? We'll have to work through some things, especially if you've developed some scar tissue over the last few years. Because I don't know about you, but the last few years have brought a lot of loss, a lot of just contraction. You can't do much and you feel a lot of loss and a lot of pain. And you begin to develop scar tissue, right? Like a buildup of all that's taken place or changed. I liken it to therapy I have a scar up my hand, and they have to work on the scar tissue. What are they doing? They're stretching it because they want it to be able to be better in the end. But this can be a painful process, stretching scar tissue, where they push and they knead and they stretch, but they know that the end result will give me a better life, better mobility, right? Hebrews 10:32 says, "But call to remembrance the former days in which, after you were illuminated, you endured a great fight of afflictions." I like that. So you've been illuminated. You can imagine what God sees for your life. But then the next part of that verse prepares you. Just like homeowners, they say, okay, I'm grabbing a hold of that vision. And then the walls start coming down and problems start rising up. The next part of that verse says that after you were illuminated, you endured a great fight of afflictions. It's like when you tell God, okay, God, I'm ready. The devil goes, oh, no, you're not going to reach your potential. You're not going to grab a hold of that vision, right? He wants to detour you. And the word great in Greek means mega, which describes something very big, right? Here's some of the words in Greek that I like out of that verse. The word fight in the word Greek is athlesis, which refers to a committed athlete. I love that definition. Rick Renner said, when you receive a word from the Lord, it may throw you into one of the greatest challenges of your entire life. You'll feel like you've just entered the ring and you're competing for a prize, right? You're a committed athlete. And lastly, that word afflictions. In the Greek, it's pathema, which refers to mental pressure or sufferings that affect the mind. I actually love that too, because it's not talking about a mental sickness. It's talking about a war in your soul, an attack on your thoughts. I love those breakdowns, and here's why. Because the verse is really reading, when you latch on to God's vision and you can imagine what your life could be, then the devil does everything he can to mentally bring you down, right? To talk you out of what God says is possible. But you are a committed athlete and you're in it to win it. So I love that about that verse. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 10:5, bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So what does the Bible say to do? It says to take every thought into captivity. Rick Renner said, the devil tries to invade your life through lies that he plants in your brain. If you don't take those thoughts captive, it'll just be a matter of time before the devil can start to use those lies to create mental and emotional strongholds. Why would he do that? Because he wants to keep you stuck. He doesn't want you to continue on into what you could be, right? But if you take those thoughts captive, then your thoughts cannot take you captive. So now here, back to the stretch, right? We're going back to that word stretch. I was listening to Terry Seville, and she told a story of a success coach who visited the Atlanta Falcons. And he told them to write down their dreams and goals, get their visions on paper. And they took this time to write everything down that they wanted, right? And after all this time writing it down, the success coach said, okay, now I want you to rip it all up, destroy it, get rid of it. And they weren't thrilled. They just spent like an hour writing it down. But he told them, he said, how many other teams have the same goal as you? Win a Super Bowl, win the conference, win a championship, right? He goes, how many other teams have the same goal? With the goals alone, can you get to where you want to go? Not by themselves. He then said, what I want you to do is now write down your commitment to achieve those goals. And I love this because how many of us all have the same goals? Freedom in finances, better jobs, stronger relationships, healed and whole. But what separates us apart is commitment. Are you willing to be stretched and enlarged? Enlarging isn't easy, but it's worth it, right? Just like the scar tissue. It's not easy to continue to be stretched, but in the end, it'll be worth it. Again, Hebrews 10:32, the word fight says that you're a committed athlete. Have you ever seen how Olympians train? They commit to do some hardcore things because they have their eye on the prize. They choose to not go out at certain times. They choose to do other things than what everyone else would want to do. Jim Wong said, if you want to be successful, the first thing you need to do is get serious. And Glenn Johnson, when he preached at IBC, said, when you've had enough, then you'll do what needs to be done. What is your commitment to get out of where you are and onto the path that you want 2023 to be? And you may be in a hard place right now, a rough season, just like those HGTV people, you're standing in a house full of mold. They just discovered mold and crime and it's falling apart and you're struggling to see that potential. But Jesus is standing there with you. God, the designer, is saying, Look past where you're at. Look past all of this. Look at where I will take you. John 10:10 said, God came to give life and give it more abundantly. Sickness, lack, strife, stress, that's not abundant life. God is saying, no, you can have so much more. You just have to imagine it. That's where you start. That's your launching pad, right? You have to see it and then be ready to be stretched through it. The NLT version says, the thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. Notice that was the devil's purpose, not God's. The next sentence says, my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. So I'm going to end with this. God is standing here today painting this amazing picture of what could be in your life. But just like on the show, we walk away from that potential because we can't see it. Some of those people walk out of those homes and they pick a different house. It's a good house, but the designers are like, oh, they could have had so much more. So we do the same thing. We take a lesser road. It's a nice road, but it wasn't the best one. God will help you build whatever house you choose, so to speak. Whatever you imagine and can envision, God will walk through that with you. But I want to encourage you this week to imagine big, because he is a God of the miraculous and he likes to do big things for us. His purpose is to give us a rich and satisfying life. So dream big, imagine big, and then commit to being stretched and enlarged. What could that look like for you? Maybe it looks like committing to listening to sermons at night rather than watching TV shows, or choosing new friends over the ones that are tearing you down, right? Or getting up 10, 20, 30 minutes earlier so that you can have that alone time with him before the busy of the day and the words of other people. And what I wanted to say to that is, that's a stretch. To wake up earlier means you have to discipline yourself to go to bed earlier. So there is a lot of thought that goes into commitment. That's why that success coach said, write down your commitment. What are you willing to do to get to the results you want, right? But once you grab a hold of the vision that God has for your life, remember, you're a committed athlete, ready to put in the work to attain the prize. The last verse is Philippians 3:13-14. But I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past, forget what's happened to you, and look forward to what lies ahead. Press on toward the goal to win the prize. This week, sit and imagine what life could be like. Let God take you through what 2023 can be for you, and then commit. Commit to seeing change in your life and be ready to be stretched. Have a great week. Bye.